Hello and welcome to another Sprues and Brews video. Today we're having a look at the new Codex Chaos Space Marines for Warhammer 40,000. So first of all, massive thanks to Games Workshop for sending us a free review copy to have a look at on the site. Yeah, I think a lot of Chaos players have been awaiting their new Codex for a long time. It's been a while. We had like two codexes, kind of a revised edition last time round with the Vigilus stuff included in it, and now yeah, we finally got our updated 9th edition codex. Yes, we've got 2 wounds. That has become a bit of a meme recently, but yeah, it's pretty cool. We've got some awesome stuff in here. So when we look in the video is have a go through, kind of look what's changed, look at how the different legions work, have a look at the data sheet, see what's cool in there, and go through all the Crusade content and stuff as well. So it's a fairly hefty book. We've got quite a lot in here. Like I say, we get rules for every legion, which is really fun. So what we'll do, we'll have a dig into the book and see what has changed. First of all, I just want to give a shout out to this awesome cover art as well. Kind of black and red and blue evocative artwork is really cool. So let's open it up and have a look inside and see what we get. So as with any Games Workshop book, the first 50 or so pages is kind of all dedicated to the lore and the narrative, and again this section is filled with some great artwork. We've got some old stuff and some new stuff in here, kind of explaining the various factions within the Chaos Space Marines, the various characters and kind of background on them. You know, if you're an existing Chaos Space Marine player, a lot of this will be, you know, you'll know a lot of this. But what I find is, especially for somebody new to the hobby and looking to get into the book, being able to kind of go through and digest and absorb all this information, it kind of really gets your creative juices flowing for creating and painting up your army. You know, it's no surprise that we're not, you know, super hardcore competitive players here on Sprues and Brews. We're more into the narrative and the Crusade kind of things, and it really does kind of reward that play style, kind of digging into the lore and absorbing all that and learning about your various factions that you want to play as. That's really the most exciting thing for us, recreating kind of stories on the battlefield. And again, you know, other channels might go more on the hardcore competitive side. We're all about rolling some dice and having some fun, and yeah, that's certainly something you can do with this book. And that's not to say there's not any competitive builds in here. There's some really cool stuff in here, but yeah, for me, really what gets me kind of going for the book is all the lore and the information, and recreating these forces that we've read so much about in like Black Library books. Obviously Horus Heresy players as well might be interested to see how their legion changes going into the 41st millennium as well. So obviously we get all that in here as well. Now while we get cultists and the like in here, it is worth noting out that there's no traitor guard. Obviously we saw the traitor guard models come out with Killzone a little while ago, and they're not actually included in here, which does make me wonder if the Astra Militarum book may have an option for doing traitor guard armies, which would be interesting. So we'll see. Obviously there's some models that are new in here. Unfortunately they haven't got a release yet alongside the book. I think alongside the book today there is the Combat Patrol, which looks pretty good, but the awesome new Mutants and the new Possessed aren't actually out alongside it. So hopefully they're not too far off, because the new Possessed and the new Cultists and all that stuff looks really good. But yeah, at the minute it's just the main book here and the Combat Patrol on the way. So yeah, I am interested to see when all that drops, because those Possessed are pretty good, as we'll see in a bit. So, but yeah, once we get through all this, we get to the main bulk of the kind of the rules themselves, and I'm sure a lot of people will be interested to see how the army plays. Combat Patrol is out today as well. Looks a pretty good box. You get a unit of Marines, a unit of Havocs, you get the Dark Apostle, and you get a Hellbrute. So pretty good force for starter army. If you can pick up any of the old Combat Patrol, the start collecting box, sorry, that is also worth picking up as well, with the Venom Crawler and stuff in there. But yeah, so Chaos Space Marines, it's been a while since we've got a book, and there's quite a few things that have changed in here. A few things that we've seen in other codexes that have been tweaked here as well. So one of the main things really is that each detachment can only have a single Chaos Lord, a single Demon Prince, and a single Dark Commune. If you want to have multiples of them, you're going to have to take multiple detachments. Now obviously, with the way that command points work in the current game, with the latest match play book, you're going to have less command points than you used to back at the start of the game, so it is going to be an investment taking multiple detachments. And I really do think it's a conscious effort by Games Workshop to limit the number of those powerful characters that you can take in an army. And it is going to, you know, have an impact on your list building as well, because obviously, like, you know, Abaddon is a Chaos Lord, so he's going to take that slot for you if you want him to. So yeah, there's some interesting things that plays towards. One thing that I will shout at that I think is a massive shame is the fact that you can't have any more cultist units than you do core Traitoris Astartes units. So you can't do a pure cultist army in here. That's one of the things I was hoping you'd be able to do in the book. Unfortunately, you can't. Now, that's not to say that in the future another narrative supplement book or something maybe brings out a kind of subset list where you can just go all out on cultists and maybe some traitor guard and stuff in there. I'd like to see that. But yeah, just with the core book, you have to take a core Traitoris Astartes unit for every cultist unit you take. And you know, there's loads of stuff you can take for that. Your standard Legionnaires, your Terminators, Havocs, Raptors, I think off the top of my head. There's quite a few core infantry units you can take to balance those numbers. So it's not a massive issue. But if you did want to go heavy on the cultists, you are going to have to pay that Astartes tax to get them. Every army can be picked from a legion as well. We'll go through the legions in a little bit, and you get a lot of stuff compared to some of the previous codexes. So each legion has got its own legion trait, which is kind of the special rule for the legion itself. They've all got their own warlord traits, their own stratagems, and their own relics as well. So you really get a load of choice in here. So we'll look at those in a minute. Just want to call out the Slaves to Darkness rule as well. Now this allows you to take Khorne Berserkers, Rubric Marines, Plague Marines and Noise Marines within your Chaos Space Marines army. Basically, for the top three, you take the profile out of the parent Codex. Obviously, Codex World Eaters isn't out yet, but the White Dwarf that came out a couple of weeks ago does have the rules for them in there, so you can use that profile for the time being. And basically they lose their Codex specific rules and gain the Chaos Space Marine ones, so that's quite nice. You're not penalised for doing so. They do have to take the relevant mark of Chaos, but they're pretty cool as well, as we'll see in a bit. So moving on to the legions themselves, we get a lot of choice in here. Like I say, for all of them you get a whole kind of load of warlord traits. You get a whole page full of stratagems and a whole page of relics. So compared to some previous books, there is an awful lot of choice in here. And I think this is a sweet spot between the making kind of legion specific codex supplements and instead have everything in this one book. And I prefer that, to be honest. There's no flicking through multiple books. There's no carrying a small library around with you when you play a game. So I'm not going to go through all of the stratagems and relics and everything because it'd be a really, really long video. What I will do though is go over the core legion traits, because that might help kind of inform which kind of faction you want to go for. So the Black Legion, these are really cool. I'm very tempted to do a Black Legion army myself now. I've got Abaddon and I've got one of the old kind of army boxes that they did over Christmas that I might paint up as Black Legion and add some of the new stuff to it. So whenever they take a combat attrition test, they can ignore all modifiers. Okay, that's pretty good. Where they get really good is that when they make an attack, they add 1 to their hit roll if it targets the closest enemy unit, in the case of a ranged attack, or if they charged and it's a melee attack. That is amazing. That means that the majority of your guys are going to be fighting on a 2+ on the charge. Your Havocs and your Chaos Space Marines, if they're shooting the nearest unit, that also goes off on a 2+. And also worth bearing in mind that this applies to everything with the everything apart from cultists, I believe. So even your demon engines and stuff like that will get the benefit. So that is really, really, really good. I can see a lot of people doing Black Legion just for that. And again, we get stratagems, we get relics, all sorts of cool stuff. The word bearers get profane zeal. So every time they make a melee attack, if the unit made a charge, wills to charge or performed a heroic intervention, they can re-roll the hit roll. Pretty good. And every time they suffer a wound from a mortal wound on a 5+, they shrug it. So they've kind of got a inbuilt tanking against mortal wounds, which is pretty fun. And again, unique warlord traits. They've got stratagems. I will call out they have got a stratagem in here that changes the damage of an attack to 0. So that's pretty cool. The Night Lords have got terror tactics. So unit with a trait of the following ability: traitor tactics. While the enemy is within 9 inches, subtract 2 from the leadership characteristic of models in the unit and subtract 1 from combat attrition tests. So kind of doubling down on making people fail combat attrition. And then every time a model with a trait makes an attack with a melee weapon, if it targets a unit that was below half strength, or if it targets a unit that has a leadership of 5 or less, you add 1 to the wound roll. So basically go around bullying units that are nearly dead because they're Night Lords and they scare people. So yeah, pretty cool. We have then got the Iron Warriors. So each time a model with a trait makes an attack, the target does not get the benefit from cover. Now the second bullet point has changed a little bit because we've had the recent balance data sheet kind of come out. So previously that worsened the AP of AP 1 or 2 attacks by 1. Instead, it means that you can't re-roll wound rolls, I believe, now. So they've tweaked it a little bit. And it's worth noting on the subject of the balanced data slate as well, that we get the Armour of Contempt rule. So across the entire army, basically, you lessen incoming AP by 1. So that is really, really good. The Alpha Legion get Masters of Duplicity. Every time a ranged attack targets them, if they're more than 12 inches away, subtract 1. Any models with a wounds characteristic of 10 or more have to be 18 inches away for that. Pretty cool. And they can fall back and charge. So yeah, pretty handy. The Emperor's Children have Flawless Perfection. So each time a model with the trait makes an attack, you can ignore any of the hit, weapon skill or ballistic skill modifiers. So basically they just hit on their base value. They can choose to ignore it as well. So if you've got some positive ones, you can still have those. And each time a model with a trait makes an attack on an unmodified wound roll of 6, improve the AP by 1, which again gives you a bit of a built-in way of countering that Armour of Contempt rule as well. So that's pretty fun. We then get 2 of the kind of I guess non-standard legions. You get the Red Corsairs. These are pretty fun. So they can advance and charge, and they count as 2 models for the purposes of objectives. If a model's got 5 or more wounds, 10 or more wounds, they count as 5 models. So again, good at taking objectives, can run and charge. They're pretty fun. You get less traits, relics and stratagems for these, but they're a bit more of a niche one, I guess. And likewise, we get the Creations of Bile. And I actually really, really like this one. I'll probably be building a Black Legion force, and I've got a Word Bearer force already. But with some of the stuff in this book, I think Creations of Bile could be the dark horse here that we see pop up on the table once people have had some games. Mainly because of their experimental enhancements rule. So you add 1 to the move characteristic and add 1 to the strength of all models essentially in your army apart from the cultists. That's massive. Possessed, we'll see, are really, really strong, but with this, essentially they start out the game with movement 10 and strength 6, which is crazy. And like all your demon engines and your terminators and stuff for the enemy, +1 strength and movement as well. That's a pretty big deal, really. And then also, whenever a model's destroyed by a melee attack, if they haven't fought yet, they get to fight as well. So yeah, they're pretty good. I quite like these, and I'm interested to put together a force and seeing how a possessed heavy Creations of Bile army does, because I think they're going to be brutal. So yeah, so that's all the legions. Like I say, you get your stratagems and traits and relics and all the stuff for them. But you're not missing out on the general kind of generic stratagems and relics and stuff as well. You still get those, which again is really, really good to see. So from a stratagem point of view, this book is probably one of the most kind of diverse selections. Now, personally, I don't know. I think I prefer Horus Heresy, where you get fewer things, so you're not flicking through books and flicking through cards. With the reduction in command points that we've got with the new battle pack, I do wonder if that's something they move away. But obviously, this is a 9th edition book, so it's got, you know, all that stuff compatible. One of the things that you can give to all of your units in your army, though, is a Mark of Chaos. They cost 15 points each, and you dedicate them to either Khorne, Tzeentch, Nurgle, or Slaanesh. And you get a number of benefits for doing so. So the Mark of Khorne, each time your unit, modelling the unit makes a melee attack, if they made a charged, word charge, or performed a heroic intervention, you add 1 to their strength characteristic. That's pretty good. Again, you could stick that on Possess to get that strength even higher. If the unit has the icon keyword, every time a model in the unit makes a melee attack, improve the AP by 1. Pretty nice. Tzeentch, once per turn, the first time a saving throw is failed for the unit, the damage characteristic of the attack is changed to 0. That is really good for 15 points, especially on your units that you want to keep alive. You know, something with a decent save, you fail it and then it's damage 0. That is really good. And if it's an icon, when they make a ranged attack, you increase the AP by 1 as well. So already stick it on Havocs or something, and yeah, I think that could be pretty good. Mark of Nurgle, each time a melee attack is made against the unit, if the strength is the same or double, then you subtract 1 from the wound roll. And basically that means that if they would have been wounding you on a 4+, it becomes a 5+. If they were wounding you on a 5+, it becomes a 6+. So yeah, makes them really kind of resilient, which is really good. If you're an icon, every time a ranged attack is made, an unmodified roll of 6 automatically wounds the target. So pretty handy there. And then the Mark of Slaanesh, if the unit starts the fight phase in engagement range, it fights first, so it always strikes first. And if it has the icon keyword, it adds 1 to melee hits as well. So you've got a nice mix there. There's no rules about having like conflicting gods within your warband, so you can pretty much mix and match to fit those to whichever unit fits their trait the best. So yeah, really quite like that. I think there's some fun to be had there. In addition to the kind of Legion specific relics, we also get a generic list of relics as well. In here we do get demon weapons, so you've got to be a little bit careful with them. So you roll 2d6 when you select a fight. If it's equal or less than the bearer's leadership, you can fight as normal. If you roll over the leadership, then something bad happens. You're going to pick which one it is. Either until the fight is resolved, the bearer cannot make any attacks with a demon weapon. Not too bad if they've got another weapon they can use. Or alternatively, they suffer D3 mortal wounds and they can fight normally. So you can choose to either just not use it at all or take some damage and still be able to get the effect of the demon weapon. And yeah, I mean there's some fun stuff there, like the Aloka the Black. Pick a weapon, it becomes a demon weapon, so activating that rule. And then every time it successfully wounds, the target suffers a mortal wound in addition to any other damage. So pretty good. There's some nice stuff here. Zal the Wrathful. Each time the bearer makes an attack with a weapon, add D3 to the damage. Gorlax the Decayed. Each time an attack is made with a demon weapon, if a hit is scored, the attack automatically wounds the target, and you cannot use any rules to ignore the wounds they lose. That is really, really good. You know, it's a Nurgle model only, but stick that on, I don't know, a lot of the lords are stuff going to be hitting on 2s anyway, with a load of attacks. Yeah, that could be pretty good. Quark the Boundless. Every time an attack is made with the demon weapon, invulnerable saves cannot be made against that attack. So again, similar to that but with a different wording. So I do wonder if some of that is making it kind of 10th edition proof as well. And Tharis and Riol the Rapturous. Slaanesh 1. Every time the bearer is selected to fight, make an additional D3 attacks with each of these demon weapons. So basically, yeah, you could get up to an extra 2d3 attacks there between the two of them. Obviously, they are demon weapons though, so there is a chance you take those mortal wounds too. So yeah, there's a load of stuff in there. Some really, really fun stuff. I like the Inferno Tome. You can stick it on the new cultist priest guy. I forget what his name is. The Dark Commune. And basically, every time he does a prayer, if it goes off, the closest enemy unit within 18 inches suffers D3 mortal wounds. So a nice bit of kind of sustained splash damage just for doing a prayer is really good. And like I say, you get a load in here, and you also get all the ones for your specific legion as well. So really, really like that. You get a lot of options here. So going on to psychic powers, we get 2 disciplines plus 3 god-specific spells. So there's a lot of glare on there, I'm afraid. Let me just spin that out of the way. So Scions of Fate is the Tzeentch spell. You select a Tzeentch target within 18 inches until the start of your next psychic phase. They have a 4+ invulnerable save, which is pretty handy. Putrid Miasma, there's a Nurgle one. Pick a Nurgle unit within 18 inches. Every time an attack is made against the unit, subtract 1 to hit. And then the Slaanesh one, Delightful Agonies. Select a Slaanesh unit within 18 inches. Till the start of your next psychic phase, each time a model in the unit would lose a wound. On a 5+, it's not wounded, so pretty cool. And then the Dark Hereticus Discipline, Infernal Gaze, goes off on a 5. If manifested, select an enemy unit within 18 inches. Roll 3d6 for each 4+, they take a mortal wound. If the spell goes off on a 10, you roll 6d6 instead, so that's pretty cool. Prescience has a warp charge of 7. Pick a unit within 18 inches. Until the start of your next psychic phase. Every time it makes an attack, add 1 to the hit roll. Diabolic Strength. This is better than it used to be and pretty cool. So it's got a warp charge value of 6. Pick a Legion Infantry or Chaos Spawn unit within 12 inches. Until the start of your next psychic phase, add 2 to the strength and attacks characteristic of the model. So, if earlier we were looking at doing the Possessed in a Creations of Bile army, that would make them strength 6. Get this spell off on them and they become strength 8 with 7 attacks each. That's fairly mental. Death Hex has a warp charge of 8. Select a unit within 12 inches. Until the start of the next psychic phase, they cannot use any invulnerable saves. Just turn off their invuns. Obviously, they've got a few ways of doing that now between some of the relics as well. Gift of Chaos has a warp charge of 7. Select the closest enemy unit takes D3 mortal wounds, and then you roll a D6 for every unit within 6 inches, and on a 4+, they take a mortal wound. So damage to a unit and some splash damage around it. Warp Time, a unit can make a normal move, but it cannot charge. So again, free movement. And then we've got the Malefic Discipline. So Warp Marked goes off on a 7. Select an enemy unit within 18. Until the next psychic phase, your Demonkin or Demon Engines get to add 1 to wound rolls. Pact of Flesh, you pick a core Legion, Demonkin or character unit within 18 inches. They can regain D3 lost wounds. If you selected a core or Demonkin, they instead get a model back with 4 wounds remaining. So again, Possessed for a good example, they've got I think 3 wounds each off the top of my head. You can just return one of them to the unit. Cursed Earth, an interesting one, goes off on a 7. You select a Demonkin or Demon Engine within 6 inches. It gives them a 4+ invulnerable save, and when the enemy charges that unit, they take some mortal wounds. Possession is pretty fun as well. This is a chance of just taking out a character, which is amazing. So you select an enemy unit within 9 inches, roll a d6, and you add 1 to the result if the test went off on a 10+. If it's greater than the toughness, a model in that unit is destroyed. If it doesn't meet it, they suffer D3 mortal wounds instead. So Eldar characters, you're talking of 50-50 chance of taking them out completely. Even Space Marine characters, if it goes off on a 10+, you're talking a 4+ essentially to just take out a character. So really, really good spell. Infernal Power goes off on a 6. Select a friendly Demonkin or Demon Engine within 18 inches. Every time they make a hit of a 6, it automatically wounds the target. Pretty cool. And then Mutated Invigoration has a range of 6. Select a unit within 18 inches and add 1 to the strength or toughness characteristic of models in the unit. If it goes off on a 10, and you selected Demonkin or Demon Engine, you add 1 to both of these characteristics. So our hypothetical possessed from earlier, that are creations of bile, you've already got Diabolic Strength off on them. Get Mutated Invigoration on them as well, and I think you've got them now up to Movement 10, Strength 9, Toughness 6 off the top of my head. Yeah, there's some pretty cool buff stacking that you can do on Possessed, and you probably want to have a Dark Hereticus and a Malefic caster in your army to get the kind of most out of them. But yeah, they're going to be really, really good. So, we also get prayers. So your priest units, if they've got the mark of their god, they get a god-specific prayer they can have. They all get Dark Zealotry, so basically it's reroll hits prayer. And then you've got 1 for each god. So the Wrathful Entreaty is the Khorne one. When they attack, they're considered to be in wanton destruction, massacre and slaughter. We'll see what that does in a little bit, but basically it's the new Death to the False Emperor rules. Mutating Invigoration is the Tzeentch one. Every time they would lose a wound on a 6, that wound is not lost. Feculent Beseechment is the Nurgle one. Add 1 to toughness of models in the unit. And Blissful Devotion. It's Slanesh, 6 inches, and they can charge after advancing. So again, some cool stuff there. Then there's the 6 standard prayers that you can choose to take as well. So Benediction of Darkness. Select a friendly core or character or cultist unit within 6 inches. Every time a ranged attack is made against that unit, it's treated as being in light cover. Litany of Despair, 12-inch range, roll 3d6. If the result is greater than the leadership characteristic, select one of the following. The unit cannot perform actions, or they cannot fire Overwatch, so you can just lock down Overwatch of enemy units. Omen of Potency, if it goes off, you add 3 to the attack's characteristic of the priest, and you improve their AP by 2. Warp Sight Plea goes off on a core, cultist or character unit within 6 inches. Whenever they make a ranged attack, reroll a hit of 1 and the target doesn't get the benefit of cover. Soul Tear Portent, again core, cultist or character. Each time a model in the unit makes a melee attack, add 1 to the wound roll. And Illusionary Supplication, again core, cultist or character. An unmodified hit roll of 1 to 3 always fails, and the hit roll cannot be re-rolled. So pretty cool. What we'll say with the prayers, Possessed don't have the core keyword, so while you can do a lot of core stacking with some of the psychic powers, you can't really affect them with any of these, which is a shame. So we then get 6 generic warlord traits. Again, you do have a list of 6 for each of the legions anyway, but you get some kind of generic ones here if you want to take them instead. As with most of these, named characters have got a specific one they've got to take. So Flames of Spite, each time the warlord makes a melee attack, you can re-roll the wound roll, and each time the warlord makes an attack, an unmodified wound of 6 to suffer the mortal wound in addition to any other damage. Unholy Fortitude, each time the warlord would lose a wound on a 5+, it's not lost, pretty good. Hatred Incarnate, each time the warlord fights, if a charge move or performed a heroic intervention, until the fight is resolved, add 1 to the strength and attacks of the warlord, and each time the warlord makes a melee attack, you can re-roll a hit roll. Lord of Terror, while a unit's within 6 inches, every time a morale test is made, you roll an additional d6 and discard the lowest, and if they fail a morale check, they count as being half strength for the purposes of combat attrition. Eternal Vendetta, at the start of the first battle round, before the first turn begins, select an enemy unit until the end of the battle. While a friendly core or character unit is within 6 inches, you can re-roll the wound roll, pretty cool. And then Gaze of the Gods gives your warlord a 4+ invulnerable save, and he's counted as being in all 3 flavours of wanton destruction, massacre and slaughter. So yeah, we get some secondaries. Obviously they've all been recently shown off in the least recent mission pack, so I'm not going to dig too much into those. What we will have a quick look at though are the Crusade rules. Now Crusade's one of my favourite things about the 9th edition of Warhammer 40,000. If you've not played it, basically it's a way of narratively stringing your battles together. So you start off with a small force, and over the course of a campaign your guys will get more experience. They might get battle scars if they get unlucky, and you slowly build your force from a small little warband into an army. And this has been one of the things that we've really enjoyed with the with the codexes, and again with Path to Glory and Age of Sigmar as well, it's a nice thing for those narrative players to be able to do. If maybe, you know, match play games isn't your cup of tea and you prefer more telling the story and painting some models, this is absolutely a brilliant thing to get into. Now we get kind of a unique mechanic in here where your Chaos Warband is gaining kind of glory in 3 different areas. You've got personal glory, which is the warlord himself getting kind of influence and renown and being noticed by his kind of followers and his peers and maybe catching the attention of Abaddon. God glory is how the Chaos Gods see your army. So obviously they're fickle and strange beings that maybe us mere mortals don't understand, and that represents their kind of attentions on you. And then finally you've got your Warfleet glory, and that represents your actual fleet, your resources, your materials, your ships, all that kind of stuff. They all start on this track, and over the course of the game, at the end of every game, they will all drop 1 level on this track. However, depending on how you do in the battle, you will gain glory. So you've got a choice. Say if you drew a game and you got 3 glory points, you could choose to put 1 glory in each track, and then at the end of the game they all drop 1, so you just maintain the status quo and stay where you are. However, you could maybe decide to stick all of the glory in 1 track, then go straight to the top and letting the others drop down. While it's in this like middle area, there's no penalty, everything's fine. As it gets to the bottom though, there is a penalty to them. So for example, for the Warfleet, if it drops down too low, there's a chance that you start losing requisition points because you've not got the infrastructure to maintain your army. But there is a reward for getting it to the top of the tree. So for the Warlord one, for example, for the personal glory, you've got the opportunity of getting a free battle honour. You've got the opportunity of getting ascended to demonhood. So there's cool stuff. And a lot of the Crusade thing is going to be deciding, okay, well, which ones do I let slip, which ones am I not too worried about, and which ones do I focus on? You could easily just stick everything in all 3 of them and try and keep them balanced every game, but I think what's going to reward you in this is focusing in a particular area, trying to get certain rewards, and then taking the punishment for the track that you don't really like. You know, the downsides to the positives is part of Path to Glory, and that's part of the story. So, you know, if you've got your Chaos Warlord who maybe it all goes to his head and he ascends to demonhood, and meanwhile his fleet's going to hell and, you know, he's running out of resources, but he's got the attention of the gods, is a cool little narrative you can weave into your game. So I think that's really fun. Alongside that, you get all the normal agendas and requisitions and upgrades and stuff. A new thing that is added are Chaos boons. So these kind of harken back to some of the stuff in those original big Chaos books that came out way back in the Mist of Time. So The Lost and the Damned, Slaves to Darkness, all that kind of stuff. And basically these are Chaos mutations, boons that you can have for your characters. So you could have your character grow a scorpion tail so it gets an extra attack, or a particular kind of god-specific boon that's put on them. You can have them instead of your battle trait if you want to. And that really opens up to doing some of those old conversions and stuff that we used to see back in the early years of the game. I certainly will be making a couple of different models to represent my Chaos Lord over the course of this campaign, starting from just like a dude going into a horrific big demon prince or something. I think that'll be really, really fun to do. So you get all those. What's also really cool in this, as well as all your generic kind of relics and stuff, there's also a whole page for each legion as well, with their own agenda, requisition, battle traits and crusade relic as well. So they've really gone to town with making each legion feel special in this book. Like I say, they could have easily put out a supplement book for each of these that would just have, you know, a couple of pages of rules actually. The fact that they folded it into the book itself, I think is a really good thing, and I hope it's something we see kind of done with our army. Say when Astra Militarum come out, it'd be cool to see unique Crusade rules for each regiment, for example. So yeah, really, really good thing that they've done here. So on to other kind of generic abilities that the Chaos Space Marine forces have. We've got Demon Engine rule. That gives you a 5+ invulnerable save, And in every command phase, the model regains a lost wound, so that's pretty cool. Your demon engine is ticking up in wounds every turn, which is fun. Malicious volleys, it's basically the Space Marine rapid fire bolt weapon thing. If they stand still, if they're in half distance, or if you're a Terminator or a bike, you get to rapid fire. Same as it works with the Space Marines, Chaos Space Marines still get it. And then Warp Strike is basically Deep Strike. You can, instead of putting yourself into deployment, you can put them in reserves and come down outside of 9 inches of anywhere on the table. What is new is Let the Galaxy Burn. This is essentially the replacement for Death to the False Emperor, and it's kind of twofold. The first half is that all flame weapons get an additional 2 attacks, so it basically means flamers are d6 plus 2 attacks. That's pretty cool, and some of the stuff like the Helldrake and stuff that's got decent flame weapons really do benefit from that. The other half of it is the Wanton Destruction, Massacre and Slaughter. This is very much the replacement for Death to the False Emperor. It is now tied to the battle round and a weapon type. So in the first battle round you're in Wanton Destruction, so every time you can attack with a heavy, rapid or grenade weapon, any hit of 6 becomes an additional hit. And then in the third battle round you select either Massacre or Wanton Slaughter. Massacre gives you your rapid fire, assault or pistol weapons, that kind of benefit. And then from the fourth and subsequent battle round you can be Wanton Slaughter, and that is then assault, pistol or melee weapons, where a 6 becomes an additional hit. So you've got a little bit of flexibility on which of those trigger in, and there are abilities and stratagems and stuff in the game that does modify which of those turns you count as being in as well, so there are ways to trigger that multiple times. So yeah, pretty cool. It's a little bit more kind of, I guess, maths to work out than when it was just every 6 becomes an additional hit, but obviously you've got those different weapons tied to different phases. It means that as it should do, your ranged weapons do it first, and as you draw distance to them your melee weapons start doing it. So yeah, I quite like that. So moving on to the data sheets, and there's quite a bit that's changed here. Obviously wounds have increased across the board, so our standard Chaos Space Marines have got 2 wounds each now, and that's reflected on some of the other characters getting an increased wound. There's what I'm going to really focus on is kind of the big changes and the new stuff. I don't think I could do this without mentioning Abaddon, who is now amazing. Yeah, he's got 8 attacks. He can only suffer a maximum of 3 wounds a phase. He's got a 4+ invulnerable save. The first time he fails a save, the damage becomes 0. He is so resilient now. Having each of those marks of chaos again triggers some really cool stuff in him as well. So yeah, he's so good. He's so good. Hit him with Dracnium, +3 strength. That's strength 9 on the charge. It's strength 10. With the Mark of Khorne, AP -4, 3 damage. Any unmodified wound of a 6 does D3 mortal wounds on top of any other damage. He is going to be a beast. Now, he has to be a warlord. If he is your warlord, he gains the Agent of Chaos keyword, meaning that you can take Abaddon in any of the legions without breaking your legion abilities. If he's in a Black Legion force, though, he does get the Black Legion trait though, so not that he really needs it, but the +1 to hit if he charges, which again could counter any kind of negative modifiers that your opponent's got. So yeah, Abaddon's ace. I think we're going to see a lot of him in a variety of different legions as well, which is really good. Harken World Claimer's also changed a little bit as well. He's now got 7 attacks. His Hell Spear's better. Strength 7, AP -3, 3 damage. Really good. The Talon, again similar stats, so strength user, AP -3, 2 damage. You can reroll wounds with it. He can now, he used to have an aura that just affected raptors. Now he selects a friendly core or character unit within 6 inches. They can reroll hits. If he selects raptors, they can reroll wounds as well. So he's pretty cool. He still gets extra attacks for killing characters. Yeah, he's ace. Huron Blackheart's still in the box for 7 attacks. Pretty decent stat line on him. Demon Princes, can't see any changes. Obviously the pictures are of the old model. I suspect that when the new Demon Prince model is released towards the end of the year, that we'll get a new profile to reflect the awesome new size of the new model. Obviously that leaked a little bit early ahead of times. I think it was meant to come out in December, I think it is, when the Slaves to Darkness book is due to come out. So yeah, until then we've still got the old Heretic Astartes Demon Prince profile. I'm fairly certain this is going to be very impressive when the model changes though. Fabius Bao again has got the Agent of Chaos keyword, so you can include him in any army. You can use him to do the various kind of buffs to models like you used to. So he's pretty fun. Cypher's an interesting one again, Agent of Chaos, so you can include him in any Chaos army. He has a 4+ that stops your opponent from gaining command points. So that doesn't apply to the command point they get at the start of the turn, they still get that as normal. But if they have any special rules that cause them to gain additional command points or refund command points on a 4+, you stop that from working. So Cypher's a pretty good one to throw in a force to stop that. Master of Possession I think's changed a little bit on his stat line. A lot of these are minor tweaks, so attacks going up, wounds going up, the usual kind of stuff. Lucius is pretty good in that Doom Sirens have changed quite a bit, so they're now AP -3. If it's in half range, we increase the damage by 1, which is pretty fun. Lord Discordant no longer has a degrading profile, but he has gone down in wounds, so he's only got 9 wounds now. A lot of the stuff's now a consolidated profile for the weapons as well. We have got the Dark Commune. That's one of the new units that have been added to the book. The models aren't out yet, but hopefully soon. And this is basically a little entourage of cultist characters. So you've got your priest, you've got a psyker in there, and you've got a banner bearer that has a 6-inch bubble that adds 2 to the leadership of cultists and lets them reroll hits of 1. And then in addition, you've got the 2 blessed blades, which are like bodyguards, I guess. They're pretty good, 2 attacks. Strength 4, AP -3, 2 damage on the blade, so pretty good unit to keep these guys safe from being charged. I just really like the models. I think they look ace, and I can't wait till the models come out because I really want to paint them up. Legionnaires, obviously they've changed to reflect some of the new bits that are in the kill team box, so we're up to 3 attacks and 2 wounds each, making them really good. You can give them a Demon Blade, Strength User, AP -2, 2 damage. Each time an attack is made with a weapon, an unmodified wound of 6 does a mortal wound in addition to any other damage. You can also give them the Heavy Chain Axe, which is +4 strength, AP -4, 2 damage, but you -1 to hit. Pretty good. Again, in the Black Legion, you're kind of countering that with your bonuses for charging as well. You can give them a Balefire Tome, which makes them a Psyker as well, which is pretty good. Yeah, Legionnaires are good now. They're still start off as a 5-man squad as well, so you could go multiple small units with Psykers if you want to, or if you need a couple of units to cover the cultist units that you've got. Speaking of cultists, the cultist mob's improved. It starts with 10 guys, but the 10-man squad can have a flamer, a heavy stubber, and a grenade launcher now, which is fun. And you only need to add another 5 models to be able to duplicate each of those weapons too. So where some of the other builds like Terminators and Chosen are a little bit more restrictive now, your cultists can actually have a 15-man squad with 6 of the special weapons in, so they're pretty good now. Just bear in mind that obviously you need a core Traitoris Astares unit for each unit of cultists that you have. The other flavour of cultists is the other new kit that's coming out alongside this. They're an interesting unit. You start with 5 mutants and 3 torments, so the big mutant things. And again, they've got alright stat lines for cultists. They're more of a tar pit unit than anything. So every time they lose a wound on a 6, the wound's not lost. And at the start of every command phase, you can either return 3 mutants or 1 torment. So people are going to have to be chewing through this unit. Obviously, if you take a big blob of 10 of them with the 6 torments, that's going to be quite fun and a lot of stuff to get through. And they look cool as well. I just like the look of these models. Chaos Terminators I kind of alluded to earlier, but they can now only take weapon options that are in the box. So Games Wish we've done this with a couple of codexes over the years, but essentially if If you've got a loadout that doesn't match what you can buy in a box, then you probably can't use it now because it's limited. So for example, only 2 models can have a combi flamer, 2 models can have a combi melter, 3 models can replace the accursed weapon with a power fist. The accursed weapon's now a catch-all kind of weapon that covers the various different weapons that they had. They've kind of consolidated and simplified it, and personally, I don't think that's a massive issue. Obviously, if you had some very specific loadouts though, you might be a little bit disappointed. The same applies to the Chosen really, where their loadout is based on what's in the kit. Both these units though, they've got 3 attacks, 3 wounds each. They're really, really good. Yeah, they're pretty tasty. The star unit for me, and we've mentioned them a few times in the review, are the Possessed. So this is kind of a amalgamation of the old Possessed and the Greater Possessed. Both those 2 units are now removed from the book and replaced with just this generic Possessed stat line. Yeah, they're really good. So they are Demonkin, so they've got a 5+ invulnerable save. Base stats are movement 9, weapon skill 3+, strength 5, toughness 5, 3 wounds, 5 attacks and 3+ save. And again, that's got the Armour of Contempt rule, so it lessens the AP by 1. Close combat, strength user, AP 2, damage 2. They are really, really good. You can give them a chaos icon, stick a mark of chaos on them for some extra stuff. Like I say, creations of bile, making them strength 6, movement 10, and then stack a load of spells on them on top of that. You can get these things to like strength 9, potentially strength 10 if you give them the mark of Khorne. Crazy good. They're not cheap. I think off the top of my head it's 270 points for 10 of them. But worth every point really. These things will just destroy whatever they charge into. So yeah, absolutely want to get a big squad of these. Noise Marines, a lot of the sonic weapons are better. Again, Noise Marine's a bit of the odd one out really, because where the World Eaters are getting a Codex, there's no reference in here whatsoever to an Emperor's Children Codex. So unfortunately, I don't think they're going to be this edition, let's say. They're going to be a bit further on in the future, so that's a bit of a shame. I'd love to see a new multi-part plastic kit like the limited edition Noise Marine that they did. Unfortunately, that's not something you can do at the minute, sadly. Venom Crawler doesn't have a degrading stat line anymore. It's got an extra 1 less wound, I believe, but it's been consolidated down. This is something we've seen quite a bit in this book, just making things a lot simpler. I do wonder if we're going to get a standalone kit for this, because it was just part of that start collecting box, whether they just sell that sprue on the website as an exclusive maybe. I'm not sure. I don't think there's a unique kit coming out for it, unfortunately. Warp Talons are pretty tasty now. They've got 5 attacks each, strength user, AP 2, 1 damage, but they can reroll wounds, so they're pretty good. I think they only had a single attack each back in the day, maybe put up to 2 by having the warp claws, so they're pretty good now. Havocs again, based on the loadouts of the box. Obliterators are cool. Their weaponry is now a little bit more controllable. It used to be completely random across the board. Now you pick one of 3 profiles. They get an awful lot of shots. They can shoot in combat. They're really good. Again, they were another unit that was just in that start collecting box, so I am interested to see what they do now instead of that. Mutilators are gone. They're no longer in the book, which is a shame, but hey, they haven't had a model for a long time and they were a bit ugly, the old models. Land Raiders are now toughness 9, so that's pretty cool. Makes them a bit chunkier to get through. I imagine we'll see that reflected in the Space Marines when they get their updates. Demon Engines in general are a lot better. They've got weapon skill and ballistic skill 3+ base. They still get the 5+ invulnerable save, and they get a wound back every command phase, so they're pretty cool. There's some tweaks for the weapons here or there, but they're pretty cool now. The Heldrake again is a good contender with the new Let the Galaxy Burn rule, that you'll get an additional +2 hits on the Bale Flamer, making that pretty tasty. The Khorne Lord of Skulls is an interesting one. He's gone up in points, but he is pretty good. Obviously you've got a 2+ save that is affected by Armour of Contempt, so yeah, that's going to be something to chew through. He's pretty good. He increases in attacks the more damage that he gets. The only problem with him is that he does kind of degrade. I'd love to have seen him have like a fixed weapon skill and ballistic skill as he goes down, and maybe other areas reduced. Unfortunately, when you take him down to half damage, he's going to start losing effectiveness quite quickly. But I do like him. I think he's going to be quite tough to chew through as well, with 2+ save, essentially 1+ when you factor in the Armour of Contempt on there. So yeah, pretty good. The Noctilith crowns had a couple of tweaks as well. So you now get a 4+ invulnerable save if you're within range of it, which is amazing. And every battle round, the range of that increases. So it starts off at 6 inches, and over the course of the game, that increases in range. So being able to put a 4+ save on all your Traitoris Astartes is pretty tasty. Though it does cost 100 points, so that is a points investment. But yeah, it's certainly worth looking at now. So yeah, so all in all, I think it's a pretty good book. Now obviously a lot of stuff has got more expensive because they've got more wounds now, more attacks, they're more effective in general. So your army probably will feel a little bit smaller than it used to be under the old book, but arguably they're going to be a lot more effective for it. So yeah, I think Chaos Space Marine players are going to be pretty happy with this book. Like I say, I've got a Word Bearer's army. I am going to definitely put together a Black Legion force using this new book because I really like them. But I am tempted to do a Creations of Bile list built around Possessed. I think they are one of the stronger units in the book, and they really benefit from some of the little buffs that you can give them to make them even stronger. So yeah, exciting times. Obviously we're in the twilight years of 9th edition, I guess. There's only really the Leagues of Votan we know are coming, and then we've got Astra Militarum that we know are coming, and after that I think it's just Demons that haven't got a book. And that's another interesting thing. We don't know how the Demons interact with this book. I do wonder if Demons will even get a 9th edition book, and whether they maybe become one of the first armies that we see going into 10th edition, and they do things to change the mechanics and the summoning of the army really. But yeah, I guess that's a bit in the horizon. So that was our look at Codex Chaos Space Marines. Looks really, really fun. I'm looking forward to painting up my Black Legion and getting them on the table. We will be aiming to do some Crusade battles with these as well, and show you all those mechanics in real life. So stay tuned to the channel. Currently between Sprues and Brews Studios. Once we're in the new setup, we'll be able to get back on the live streams and the battle reports and stuff. So yeah, watch this space. If you have enjoyed this video, why not like the video and give us a follow. We do loads of these unboxings and reviews and stuff like that. We've also got a full write-up over on the website as well, spruesandbrews.com, accompanying this and going into a bit more detail in a few areas. So yeah, that was a look at Codex Chaos Space Marines. Again, massive thanks to Games Workshop for sending us a free one to review. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and we'll see you soon.